In this lesson, we're going to talk more about parametric drawing tools. Specifically, we're going to talk about applying geometric constraints, applying dimensional constraints, and then applying additional constraints. We're first going to use the geometric constraint tools to control the constructed geometry. In the Geometric Constraints panel, 12 types of constraints are available for 2D sketches. The coincident constraint constrains 2 points together or 1 point to a curve. The collinear constraint causes 2 lines or ellipse axes to align along the same line. Concentric constraint constrains 2 arcs, circles, or ellipses to the same center point. Fixed location constraint constrains points or curves to a fixed location relative to the sketch coordinate system. Parallel constraint causes selected lines or ellipse axes to lie parallel to one another. Perpendicular constraint causes selected curves or ellipse axes to lie at right angles to one another. Horizontal constraint causes lines, ellipse axes, or pairs of points to lie parallel to the x-axis of the sketch coordinate system. Vertical constraint causes lines, ellipse axes, or pairs of points to lie parallel to the y-axis of the sketch coordinate system. Tangent constraint constrains 2 curves to be tangent to one another. Smooth G2 constraint creates a curvature continuous G2 condition between a spline and a line, arc, or spline. Symmetric constraint constrains lines or curves to become symmetrically constrained about a selected line. Equal constraint selects arcs, circles are constrained to the same radius or selected lines to the same length. We want to first select the horizontal constraint by clicking on the icon. Now we want to click on the line at the bottom, apply the constraint. The line is adjusted to the horizontal position. Now we want to select the coincident constraint. We want to click on the large circle to apply the constraint, and then we want to click on the left end of the line. This may move the line or the circle to maintain the applied constraint. Since both the circle and the line can be moved, AutoCAD will move either geometry to satisfy the applied geometric property. We're going to take a little bit different approach to have more control in the editing of the geometry. We want to click the Undo in the Quick Access toolbar to get rid of that constraint. We're going to select the fixed constraint by clicking on the little padlock, and then we're going to click near the left endpoint of the line with the left mouse button. Note the different constraint symbols next to the geometry. Now we're going to select the coincident constraint again. We're going to apply it to the larger circle, and then we're going to apply it to the left end of the line. Notice how this time, because the line was locked in position, the circle actually changed positions. We're now going to recenter this drawing so that it makes more sense. We're now going to apply some dimensional constraints. In the Dimensional Constraints panel, a set of dimensional constraints are available. We can apply the dimensional constraints such as linear, radial, or angular dimensions to control geometry. By default, the Show Constraints option is activated, which will show all the applied constraints on the screen. We want to select the linear dimension constraint. We want to right-click to bring up the option menu and select Object. We want to select the line with a single click and then place the dimension below the line. AutoCAD expects us to edit the length of the line through the applied dimensional constraint. We want to enter 96, select Enter as the length of that particular line. Now we want to select the coincident constraint, align the center of the smaller circle to the right endpoint of the line. Interestingly enough, we can now double click on the dimension and adjust to make this line longer. We can make it 120, and notice that the left side stays where it's at because it's supposed to be locked, and the right side moves and the circle moves with it. I can then make this much shorter. I could say I want this to be 20, enter, and you'll see that it's much shorter. We actually do want it to be 96, so I'm going to enter 96, select enter, and it's back where it started. I can hit escape to get out of that command. I want to go back to the Home tab and select the Line command. And I'm going to create 3 connected line segments of arbitrary length just above the 2 circles. So I'm going to start here, go there, and go back out this way. Select Enter. Now we want to go back to our parametric tools, and I want to select the parallel constraint. I want to select the line segment on the left and then select the horizontal line at the bottom. Although the selected line segment now becomes a horizontal line parallel to the first line created, the line segment is no longer connected to the two other lines. Although it's feasible to apply additional coincident constraints, a better option is to use the auto constrain command. So we want to click on the undo command. We can now select auto constrain, and it wants us to select objects. We're going to create a window around those three particular objects. We're going to right click once and select enter to auto constrain those particular objects. Note that two coincident constraints are applied to the geometry. The auto constrain command will automatically apply constraints based on the existing geometric relations. We now want to select the parallel constraint, select this top line, and then select this line again, and notice that it moves that line parallel. Then we want to select the perpendicular constraint. We want to apply the perpendicular constraint to the middle line segment and the line segment to the right. Notice that that is now perpendicular to that line segment to the right. If we then select the tangent constraint and select the circle on the right and then this particular line, you'll see that we now have the circle tangent to that line. Note the size of the circle is adjusted to satisfy the applied constraint. Then we can select the radius dimension constraint. We're going to place it off to the right. It wants us to now tell what the radius is. We're going to do 20 and hit enter, and notice the radius of that is now 20. The line has stayed tangent, their perpendicularity is still there, and the parallel lines are still parallel. We now want to do the same thing with the left circle. So I'm going to select the tangent, select the circle, and then select that line, and you'll see that those are now tangent to one another. I want to apply another dimensional constraint to the left circle and set the radius to 30. Although the tangent constraint is applied, that does not assure the tangent lines are trimmed correctly. We're going to use the coincident constraint to restrict the endpoints. So we want to select the coincident constraint again, and then select the endpoint of the top horizontal line. We're going to right click, bring up the option menu, select object, and select the circle. And you'll notice that the coincident constraint assures the endpoint of the line is always on the circle. We're going to repeat those steps to constrain the right endpoint as well. We now want to set a linear dimension constraint from this end of the line to this end of the line, pull it up here, and we want to make that line 60 units long. We'll recenter our drawing. And then the next thing we want to do is we're going to go ahead and create an arc. And we're going to do a 3-point arc, and we're going to put it right over here next to this corner. So I'm going to put one here, right there, and right there. And again, I just want to get close. I don't even necessarily want to get exactly right on. In the ribbon area, we're going to left click once on the parametric tools, and we're going to select the radius dimensional constraint. I'm going to select the arc, and I'm going to give it a dimension of 15. We're going to select the coincident constraint, select the top point of the arc, and then the right point of that line. We're then going to select the tangent one, select the bottom line, and then the arc, so that they're now tangent. The one last thing that we want to do is go ahead and trim off. So we go back to our home tab, trim off from this line the end of that arc. That completes our drawing up till now.